The holiday of Sukkot is coming up. Um, Life seems normal when you see all the dogs. The dog walker is working, so that's a good sign. Uh, so I might have work tomorrow. So there's a spa, there's Shoshana. So yeah, it's Shoshana. Shoshana is a. So we're going on a different route today because I have a problem with my foot. So I'm not going to the dog beach today. It's too hot. So we're going to the river today. Shoshana. I'm going to do a river exercise regime today. Slightly less warm. And Shelby, hello. Hello. We'll see. So, yeah, I have a little bit of optimism. I was very surprised to see that I had a job offer. I substitute some time, so I have two more kindergarten, special needs kindergarten, and that's going to be interesting. And we'll see, maybe from that one kindergarten I'll have more work, I'll have to prove myself, but it should be okay. I know the work, so it's more satisfying than working in a shop, I would think, or a supermarket, which is a big job provider these days because they're still working for people that look for temporary jobs. But there's not so much satisfaction from putting things on the shelves after you are in education. And so I'm looking into different possibilities in the future. We shall see. The problem is taxes. As one wise man said, there's two things in life that are sure: death and taxes. And yesterday I fell asleep watching the Donald Trump-Joe Biden debate live, and I was going to actually make a video on that. So I wanted to say something. Donald Trump was very aggressive. He was constantly attacking. I didn't get to the part of the taxes. I'm going to review it. Maybe I'll do a video when I'm back home on the debate. Biden seems like such a decent human being, like the good American, and Donald Trump seems like a shark. He's very confident, and he's also very entertaining. He's just naturally very entertaining. But like one person said, what's good for a reality show is not good for a world leader. So I'm wondering about the taxes, because the New York Times exposed Donald Trump's taxes, and apparently there was 1 year where he paid something like $750, and he supposedly made billions. Supposedly he's a billionaire, and he's a debt of $400 million. If you think that you have debts these days, $400 million. So appearances and confidence go a long way in business. But what really makes me angry is the taxes, the whole thing about taxes, that I don't earn a lot of money in teaching. Like, I don't have teaching certificate. I do have degrees that are relevant, but I do not have a teaching certificate, which means I'm not part of a union, which means that I get screwed. I can get fired anytime. My jobs are temporary. And I have to pay taxes, so I sometimes work several jobs. I work for this, I work for the Board of Education and Substitution, but then I can maybe get a job every now and then. I get something more stable, and then it's not the Board of Education, but it could be some special needs. You have all kinds of committees, and so if I get money from different employers, I have to fill a form, which is not that complicated perhaps, but I have to list exactly, like I have to have detailed numbers. It's quite a bureaucracy. And if I don't fill this form, they automatically tax me 50% or something from a very small sum. So let's say I earn 2,000 shekels, then they take off like half of it, and it's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. And I don't understand taxes, but if I could understand the logic, maybe I would be less angry. How come with very small incomes you have to pay so much taxes? That's what I don't get. Shouldn't there be a certain amount where you really hardly pay? Because you have to consider the fact that a person that makes such little money is really struggling to make a living. Because this is a very expensive country. So I really wonder how people can survive with such tax, enormous taxes taken off. On the good point is that you do get, like, healthcare is very cheap. That's the good point, because Israel used to be socialist. And I'm also wondering, since when is socialist a bad word? Since when it became a cuss word? Because Joe Biden has been accused of being, God forbid, a socialist. What it means to be a socialist is a person that is aware of the weak in society and believes that the weak should get support. Now, of course, that can be abused. I've seen that. In Europe, there are many people that take advantage of the system. However, in countries like Israel, the weak do not get so much help. I've been in difficult financial situations, and I know that there's just no way I'm going to get help. It's really difficult. And so socialism shouldn't be a cuss word at all. And I don't know how people in the US survive, but certainly I heard there's a lot more homelessness. And the fact that there's so much crime in the US indicates that there is a big social problem, because people don't steal because they have a lot of money. People don't take drugs because they're, like, really feeling good and part of society. So when there's a lot of poverty and you don't get help from your country and you don't have health insurance because you don't have a job, I can imagine that people can become desperate. And it has to do with a lot of other social factors. So all I can say is that I'm allergic to Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, and Benjamin Netanyahu are like a match. I don't like Benjamin Netanyahu because of the accusations of bribery, because of the deals, like a peace treaty with the United Emirates. And I was reading a newspaper article, so let's say you have people can fly over Saudi Arabia or United Emirates or wherever, and they could get to India 5 minutes, it saves half an hour or whatever to get to India or whatever you have to be. But the problem is the weapon deal, the way so much weapon is given to these countries. And definitely the people who pay the price are the people that get killed in war, the civilians that are the victim of all these wars. Like now there's a war between Azerbaijan and Armenia. So Armenia is supported by Russia, and Azerbaijan has, that's what I read, Israeli weapons and the US backing. So you have, instead of having a Cold War between US and Russia, you have these poor countries that are fighting battles, and people are getting killed. A lot of people are getting killed now in these wars that are not being reported because they're not that interesting, because these people, their life, if you live in Azerbaijan or Armenia, the value of your life is not worth reporting in the New York Times or major media. This is the horrific reality, that life has different value depending on where you live. So if you live in Gaza or you live in Tel Aviv, your life has a different value as well. I think that is really horrific. So that's, and people like Donald Trump, they are the people that encourage this type of racism, values, that capitalistic values, that money only matters. So to see Joe Biden and Donald Trump argue is like seeing the devil incarnated. For me, he's just evil in every aspect. He's the worst of humanity, Donald Trump. And Joe Biden, maybe is hope. Maybe there's hope. I don't know. I don't really trust politicians. And I heard that in Israel, something like 27% of people still trust our prime minister, which is horrific. Yeah, it's... Today we're not going to the beach, but yesterday there were loudspeakers at the beach. At the same time, there's this religious, ultra-Orthodox extremist communities that nobody touches. They don't go with loudspeakers and saying, put on masks in Bnei Brak, or in where they congregate in large numbers. And definitely, I would say that the large number of people with corona in Israel, which is number one now in the world, is number of people that have this disease. Probably it's because of people that are ultra-Orthodox or Arabs that live in very crowded communities and do not keep the mask thing on. I'm not generalizing all Arabs, of course, or all ultra-Orthodox, but certain ones, extremists that ignore the rules. Like next to my house, there is a synagogue of these settlers, and yesterday I saw they don't put on masks, and even though I reported it, they say, oh, the holidays is an exception. The holidays is an exception. I can't go to the beach in the open air, but people can sit in synagogues in crowds and spread corona. Oh, there's my favorite dog walker there. So I'm not making this video to be angry in any way. I'm just saying, where's the logic? Where is the logic? There's no logic in these corona rules, because I don't understand why the beach is not safe, but why the police can't crack down in all these extremist religious communities, especially one in North Tel Aviv, where they just completely ignore the rules, don't go with masks, congregate, very crowded. I'm not saying all the ultra-Orthodox are the same, but these particular ones, they just don't touch them. And yet they go to the beach and they terrorize people with loudspeakers, screaming at them to get out of the water, screaming at them to get out. And it's like, you don't get coronavirus for being outside on the beach, do you? And it's not like there's people crowded on the beach, because there's hardly anyone on the beach. So it's completely ridiculous to send people to do that and ignore the real risk. So it is political. It is definitely political, because the ultra-Orthodox have a lot of power in Israel. And it's very irritating when there's a certain group, which is still a minority, who has so much power over the rest of us. And therefore, it's really hard to say that Israel is a democracy. They influence our political decisions, and they influence our ability to be part of the Middle East. And there's just so much hypocrisy, because these people have so much dealings going on. This is my experience also living abroad, that I did not enjoy the ultra-Orthodox leaning with the ultra-right-wing parties in Europe, especially where I lived, which is completely ridiculous. Why would ultra-Orthodox Jews be with right-wing Europeans? And the reason is they have similar values, which is they care about accumulating as much money as possible, and they don't like diversity in society. So, for all its type. Anyway, why am I saying this? To make myself feel bad? No. I'm just saying it because I feel like it's time to talk about the real issues and not about Harry and Meghan. I see so many channels, Harry and Meghan are making money on Netflix. Harry and Meghan are making a reality show. Yes, they're hypocrites, but which celebrity is not a hypocrite? Yes, they said they don't want publicity, but yet when they get, $100 million to make a reality show, all of a sudden they don't mind exposing their home. So it's just capitalistic idea that they're heading towards the highest bidder. They just said, oh, why should we be this royal family when we can make so much more money in Hollywood? So that was the plan. And to say that Harry is like, oh, poor Harry, he's not poor Harry. That's what he wants to do too. Him and Meghan want to make as much money as possible, exploiting the public interest in them. So what people should do is ignore them, not make more channels about them and talk about them constantly. And not, there's some channels that really go into details of how horrible Meghan is, and I think it's really disgusting to speak about a person in the way people speak about Meghan, in the way that talks about her being a whore or whatever. It's just disgusting. I don't think there's a place for this kind of talk on the media. And I'll see all these channels, how Meghan is so horrible, Meghan is so horrible. Well, if your life was so good, you wouldn't need to put other people down. So what's the point? I mean, is Meghan Markle going to be the president of the USA? It's like, are they Kardashians, whatever their names are. I've never seen that stupid show. Are they going to be the president of the US? Is Caitlyn Jenner going to be the president of the US? All this nonsense, it's completely nonsense. Yes, she wants to get involved, but in what way is Meghan Markle worse than the politicians? Aren't they all hypocrites? Aren't they all people that live off the public money and live a life of luxury while the people have to work hard for their money, pay taxes? And people like Donald Trump don't have to pay taxes at all. There's some years where he didn't pay any taxes, and I have to pay for my work. Is really like very, very low pay work. Get less than a cleaning lady despite having degrees. So yeah, I'm still saying it. There's something really wrong with the system, and I know I can't change it. But the politicians here are not going to change it. They're not going to do anything to make it easier for people that don't earn a lot of money. They don't make the taxes here. The taxes here are absolutely absurd. And I realize now that the tax system here is really, really difficult. Makes it very difficult for people who earn a little to survive. And the social system here is really not helping. And it's just, everything here is so dysfunctional. And then you have these big companies like the electricity company or municipality or government that if you work for them, you really have amazing conditions. You could just sit in the office and scratch your ass and you get money. Electricity company, you don't have to pay for electricity. You have all these benefits. You make a lot of money. You don't need an education, in fact. And you can't get fired once you reach a certain number of years you work there. And, oh God, sorry, we have an emergency. My dog is like, what's wrong? She's not well. Don't worry, she's going to be okay. She's maybe stressed out because of everything around her. Sometimes she has sort of like what I think is a panic attack. So a garbage man makes much more than me. They work like very few hours. They're very important, don't get me wrong. They probably work more than government people, other government people do. But it doesn't make sense that an educated person, a teacher, has to go through this red tape of getting a teaching certificate. And, because of one course, I have to redo everything. And as if it's like a medical degree, where there's no connection between what you study in a teaching certificate for people that are academics and school. There's just absolutely no connection between what you study, and that kills you. After you've been in the system, you realize that it's all bullshit, that they make you. I think a person that has a master's degree shouldn't have to do a teaching certificate in a normal society. If they actually had that, there would be so many more teachers. There would be so many more people teaching. They would say, you know what? You have a master's degree in education, you don't have to do a teaching certificate. And they make you do this teaching certificate, which has zero to do. Like, if I want to teach English, why do I have to know? Why do I have to study hours and hours of linguistics? That doesn't make sense. When you teach the language, it has nothing to do with linguistics. Teaching has nothing to do with linguistics. Yes, there's some basic knowledge. You have to have basic knowledge of what language is and how it goes, but it's just completely unrelated. So I really wonder why the system keeps doing it. And the reason is because people don't protest. They don't care. They don't mind spending all that money, getting into student debt. And I just realized I don't want to spend money on teaching certificate working for a system that I hate. But then again, I'm working for the system in the back way as a substitute. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm looking into a course which would allow me to work with special needs kids in a different way. Would be managing their cases and trying to see what is the best treatment for them. I would need to be studying for a year, but the course is so much less expensive than the teaching certificate. And I would think that it suits my character more because I do have critical thinking and analytical thinking skills that I don't really put in use in teaching. And I really don't like working with stupid people. I'm not talking about kids, I'm talking about the teachers. Some of them are so stupid. And they just are like cows that just sit they just do the same thing again and again. They don't think beyond their noses. And when I did my degree in creative education, I really didn't think this would be the situation in 2020 that people teach. Yes, there's a computer, but you basically teach in the same boring methods, and you don't really allow children to think outside the box too much. This is in generality. And when you teach English, it's ridiculous how the teachers teach in such a boring way and don't include real life experiences of language, but do games that have nothing to do with language. When you want to learn a language, it's not about learning